Okay, we're going live. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Resilient Women Wednesday. If you guys don't know who I am already, my name is Tammy. I'm a C4, C5 quadriplegic due to a car accident when I was 17. Today I'm excited for you to meet my beautiful friend Gretchen and chat with her. Gretchen, you want to share a little about yourself and your level of injury?
Yes, so I'm really happy to be here. Thanks, Tammy, for having me.
Yes.
Like Tammy said, my name is Gretchen. I am a C5, C6 incomplete quad, and I'm just really excited to be here.
Gotcha. You had mentioned that you were injured in Dallas due to drunk driver, right?
Yes, so I was actually injured in 2014, actually December 26, 2014. So literally the day after Christmas, we were actually on a layover in Dallas, Texas. I had left the airport to meet a couple friends, and on the way back to meet my family for our flight, we were T-boned by a drunk driver while crossing the street. I was a passenger, and I just remember being rolled over and had to go into surgery right afterwards, and that's it. From there, just C5, C6, incomplete.
Were you conscious when when you mentioned being rolled over?
Yes, I was conscious, and I remember them having to cut me out of the car. I remember being in the ambulance. I was just in shock, to be honest.
Gotcha. Well, I can't say how much I'm so glad you're here, healthy and just happy and here with us to talk about all the topics and your accomplishments today.
Yes, thank you.
We're going to jump right into, the topic of driving because you recently, give me a second, let me close this. You are able to drive again. By my surprise, I went to the DMV recently and to take my permit test, and they were like, no you're not, because you have to get approved by driver safety. I had no idea what it was, and you reached out to me. So for those who are pursuing driving again and have to go take their permit test and they'll start the process over, what is driver safety?
So driver safety, I, like you, also had no idea what driver safety was until I went into the DMV myself. But basically what the driver safety offices, which there should be one locally if there is a DMV office where you are, they should also have a driver safety, which is basically the office that processes your license and being able to reinstate, re-invoke, they either suspend, and those kind of things. So it's not just for people with disabilities, it's for other people as well that have had their license suspended. So as long as you ask your local DMV, they should point you in the right direction. Just mention that you want to get your license again, and visit the driver safety office to do these things. They'll help you with that.
Gotcha. So what was your experience like?
So actually for me, as soon as I was injured, I came back into town. I live in Central California. And the physician had told me that he had suspended my license, obviously, because I had no function at that time. I did not know anything about driving at the time of my injury, so it was a shock to me to kind of figure out that there were a lack of resources in this area. But basically, what they told me that I needed to do was, in order to start driving again, I would need to get my specialist permit. And for that to happen, you would go to the driver safety office, and I had to take a written test that everybody has to take to get a license, and as well as have a hearing with the judge to determine whether I should have my license reinstated. As for me, I wasn't the drunk driver, and I didn't do anything wrong, so it was a fairly easy process to get the judge to give me a special permit.
Gotcha. Yeah. So for everyone out there who doesn't know, she did go through driver safety process, and then she got her learner's permit, or written. Was it written?
Yeah, it's actually called for this type of permit, it's called a special permit.
Yeah.
Which is basically the same thing as a learner's permit if you're the first time driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the moment you passed your permit, how much longer after until you got, your driver's test? Went for your driver's test?
So then after that, I actually decided to go through the California Department of Rehab in order to get some help with funding for my vehicle. And I was also in the process of going to school, and so through their vocational rehab services, I was able to get them to help me with the mobility evaluation first, which is basically an evaluation that they have to do in order to determine what kind of strength you have, what kind of adaptive equipment you would need in your vehicle. Obviously, before you drive any vehicle, you need, safety first. So they help me get the right kind of hand controls, the right kind of spinner knob, and those kind of things. And then after that, basically, they would pay for the vehicle and then give me the vehicle with all that adaptive equipment in. And then once that happened, they provided a driving instructor for me.
Gotcha.
And that person would come and evaluate all the adaptive equipment, and then that's when I got to start taking driver's lessons.
Yeah. I'm sorry, did you utilize your instructor's car, or did you have your own car by the time you went for your driver's test?
Yeah, so unfortunately for me, I had to wait until I got my own car. Because I needed a few different modifications for my level of strength. Unfortunately, when I tried to use the instructor's training car, I was not strong enough to turn the steering wheel and those kind of things. But during the mobility evaluation, they were able to determine those things. So they were able to, they put me in like a really big van that they can maneuver and manipulate, and they tried to see which kind of things I would need to drive. So I was able to drive like a little bit here and there in like a parking lot, but it wasn't like the specific lessons. It was more of them just trying to figure out what equipment I would need in my own vehicle.
I see.
Yeah.
So, after that, what was your driver's test like?
So once I got into the car, I was anxious at first. I had driven before, so I had previously had a license and I was driving before my injury. So I kind of knew the laws of the road and that kind of thing. So I didn't have a problem with that. It was more of my anxiousness and trying to learn how to use the adaptive equipment, I think, was more what it stemmed from. After they were able to properly, fit me into my own vehicle and I had proper equipment, I felt like I was a little bit more secure and safe when I was driving. And when I first got in the car, I didn't know what to expect, so it was kind of going like 5 miles an hour. Having to get that confidence to keep going, and then finally get to 25, and then obviously to 45 on regular streets. So I think it's kind of the same way you feel like when you drive when you're 16. It's kind of like, okay, let me just get a hang of this for a second, take a couple deep breaths, and we'll figure it out. So driving lessons went really well. And I think that has to do, obviously, because I drove before. But, so it actually went really well. The driver instructor said, I was pretty much good to go after 3 weekends of about 15 hours each. And then I was able to drive and then obviously practice on my own with another person in the car, obviously, in between.
What was it like finally, moving on up to 45 an hour?
I was nervous. I wouldn't want to change lanes and things like that at first, because for me, as a C5, C6 quad, I don't have trunk control, and I can't turn around and look and, to do those kind of things. So I had to get really adjusted to driving at that speed while also maintaining, safety for me, while using, they call them, they add these additional mirrors on the top of my the side window, the side mirrors, so I don't have to turn around and look.
That's what I was concerned about too, for blind spots, right?
For blind spots, yeah. I'm pretty sure they are called blind spot mirrors. I'm not sure because they're smaller and they go right on top. And so once I got the hang of that, getting up to 45 was, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and like I was telling you earlier, Tammy, I was able to do all of this in the midst of a pandemic where there weren't that many people driving out on the road. So it was actually really nice for me.
Yeah.
But
Probably more
yeah,
relaxing too. A
yeah, so
little as
I felt
relaxing
a
as
little
a
bit more
wheelchair.
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. My accident actually happened due to a blind spot, issue.
Oh,
My whoever was driving my car didn't see the car, and then they cut us off, and then it was all hell from there.
yeah.
Yeah, and then they call it a quote unquote phantom. So I'm like so paranoid about blind spots. So now that you tell me about the mirrors, it gives you more peace of
Yeah.
mind, and I want to be safety to others as much as I want to be safe from them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So how was the person like who tested you? What were they like?
So,
Evaluator and driver's test.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for evaluator, really great. Very patient. Was willing to listen to my concerns.
Yeah.
And didn't push me more than I could handle at that time. And I'm very vocal about comfortability and those kind of things. So, as long as you let your instructor know that you're feeling kind of uncomfortable. Is there any way we can stop for a second and just regroup?
Yeah.
We pulled over a couple times. I asked him questions that I wasn't sure about. Was I doing things wrong? And so that kind of helped me a lot. So I had a really great instructor. As for the driver's test, I didn't have any problems. He was really great. I think I was more anxious and nervous and than I should have been probably. He was really sweet. He got into the car. He didn't make me do too many things. And then he took me around a couple times, places that I had already been practicing at, and I felt very comfortable. It was probably less than 30 minutes, for me to do it. And then when I got back into the DMV area parking lot, he just told me a couple of things that I should, look for the next time I drive, but he said I did fine. And then he kind of just explained a couple of things, and I was good to go from there. So I think it was more me, like, hyping myself up too much and getting a little anxious more than anything. But yeah, he was great.
Did you go practice around the area? Because you already knew it
Yes.
was DMV. Oh yeah. Wait, you're in Merced
So I'm
right
not
now?
supposed to do that,
Oh, what?
but I live in the area, so I'm like, it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
But honestly, I probably went there a couple times. Like, it wasn't anything excessive. It was more like I was already driving around there anyway. I live really close.
Yeah.
But yeah, just familiarize yourself with the streets and the different types of turns that you have to do. Because maybe sometimes people don't live near their DMV and it's different.
Yeah, that's so weird
not like-
that's not allowed. You would think it's a safety. That's responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say that, but you should be
Yeah.
ready to do that. Yeah.
Okay. How many tries did it take you?
On my first try, I was I think I was pretty confident. Yeah, it was my first try.
Whoa.
And I think it was just I practiced so much with the instructor. Honestly, that many hours was exhausting because it was at least 3 weekends, and it was about 7 to 8 hours each day of the weekend. So it was very exhausting. But I felt like that was and I felt like it was enough for me. Personally, obviously, if you needed more time or and things like that, then they would come out more weekends until you felt comfortable.
Oh, so it's one of those things where you make the decision when you're ready.
Yeah. He didn't to let me just go in without being 100% comfortable, and he evaluated me every time he came down. To instruct me. So he knew. He said, "Yeah, I think you're pretty much ready." Or he would say, "Oh, no, I'm going to come one more day, so we can work on this," and things like that. So, and I wanted to make sure that I was ready for outside of the test as well. So, I didn't want to just be ready for just the test and then be done. So I did ask him to take me on the freeway and kind of those kind of things, and crowded parking lots. I did ask him to take me to my doctor's office. Just certain common places that I go to, I wanted to make sure I was prepared.
Gotcha. It's almost like car rehabilitation.
Yeah,
Like physical
exactly.
therapy for the car.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What was most difficult or what was most easy in your experience?
The difficult process was definitely getting the vehicle, like getting everything up to the vehicle, getting everything situated. If you choose to go through California Department of Rehab or any Department of Rehab, it's going to take a long time. There's going to be a lot of paperwork that you need to be filled out, and there needs to, signatures, and it needs to go to people in different offices that need to sign off. So for me, that was the hardest part. The second part was funding. Was definitely the hardest part. And then as for the driving, I don't think anything was that difficult per se. It was more of just like my mentality, like just getting over like that anxiousness of getting back into the car was probably the most difficult part. But as soon as I got into the car and I was practicing, I felt like it got better.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, in terms of like the license test as well, what did you find most difficult and what was most easy?
So difficult, I think it was just my nerves.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's, just getting up to that space, like where you can just feel, take a deep breath, and then meet the tester and then have him get into the car. That was the most difficult part for me. I think I was just nervous.
Yeah.
And so I think once you get over that, I don't think anything was as difficult. It was just kind of just getting over the nerves the whole time while driving. Was like, am I doing okay? You're not doing okay? Like, that's what I was kind of thinking in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, is he marking something on his paper? Things like that. But as soon as I, got done, I felt pretty confident.
Yeah, that was my experience too. Like I was stressing from the time, we started talking up until my hearing this morning and getting my permit back. I was like, what was all that stress for? But
Exactly.
I think I don't know about you, but I was more fixated on my like disability and like my capabilities, that I just forget that I'm like such a capable human at the end of it, I'm just like, oh, I'll try to hold that same energy when I go for my driver's test, but yeah.
Yeah, it's that self-doubt, like getting over that, like, can you do it? Can you not do it? Can I, am I going to be able to pump gas on my own? And everything that comes with, everything that comes with driving. It's not even just the driving part. It's like, okay, can I get into my car? Can I get out of my car independently? Can I put my seatbelt on? Like, little things like that also, like, accumulate and then become part of that anxiety or that nervousness that people feel. But I think once you take that first step, it's like, okay, one step at a time, we can do it, like, let's just breathe a little easier every time you accomplish something.
Yeah, during my, while studying for the permit test, my mind just kept going, like every question I read would go on like a weird tangent of anxiety, like, oh, am I going to be able to hold myself during this turn? And just like, I can't focus on the question. I must have read this thing like hundreds of times because my anxiety gets the best of me. But I mean, at one point I thought to myself, I was able to figure everything out for the most part with having paralysis, right? So everything's just so like, you're able to figure it out. You just got to try.
Yeah, and I feel like, because we've both been through traumatic experiences already, I feel like there's nothing that could be worse. Like, you can get in the car and you can do it. It's, you've done it before, you've gotten out of bed today, little things. I always say, always celebrate those small victories every day, just getting out of bed, just doing these things. Like, it's small victories, and I feel like if you apply that kind of mindset into going into something as big as driving, I think it's just like, okay, today I opened the door of the van.
Yeah.
Celebrate something small and then eventually work up to something, I think is important.
Yeah, preach, girl, preach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go to one of the questions that one of the your followers asked you. Do you fatigue while driving?
Yeah, so someone had asked me this on my social media. And what I tell people is that it depends on you personally how well you're going to be able to adjust to driving. For me, initially, when I had that first lesson, which was like an 8-hour long lesson, and we took breaks in between, so it wasn't like continuous 8 hours, but oh man, my arms just driving they were fatigued. Like, I remember just like my arm just hurting after a while. Like, I couldn't hold that position for a long time, and I was sore the next day. It was something that I had to get used to. I ended up doing more weights and things like that on my own at home to make sure that I was able to do that. Right now, I haven't been able to drive like a long distance. Like road trip or anything like that, just because over the last year during the pandemic, we didn't really travel a lot, and so I didn't have someone to come with me and make sure everything was okay for that long of a time. But now that everything's opened up, I'm hoping that I'll have, either my sister or my parents come with me, and we'll take like a long trip where I'm driving the whole time. But I am worried a little bit about fatigue. I'm just going to take, as many breaks as I'll need, but definitely I did feel some fatigue,
Yeah. That's definitely something, I didn't really think about. And honestly, even with my wheelchair, while I'm wheeling around the block, just holding it in that position for a long time, it causes like weird, awkward pain, So I've thought about that too. So good to know.
I think it's just like repetitive, like anything. Just keep doing it and then it gets better. But, you just don't know until you're in that situation.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Okay. And also in the chat box, someone says, Mike McVicker says, hello from Ohio. So,
hi.
Hello to you. Thanks for watching. So to the next topic, evaluation and adaptations. How did you know what equipments were appropriate for your level of injury when you were looking for a car?
So when I first got injured, I didn't have any movement, or it was very weakened from my neck down. But once I regained that strength, I was able to know a little bit more about my strength. So when I went to the mobility evaluation program, an OT was able to evaluate me. So we went through strengthening exercises, range of motion exercises for her to be able to assess what I would need. She's kind of the one that went through everything with me in terms of, okay, well, you need a certain kind of knob on your wheel to be able to turn. And I knew for me, because I have limited dexterity in my right hand, that I would need some kind of knob that I would be able to lodge into it instead of grabbing onto it, because I have no grasp. So just like little things like that, she was able to help me get through it. Also, in terms of my trunk control, I tried sitting with just a seatbelt, and I just would fall over when turning. So they were able to determine that I would need a chest harness on top of it, so that it would hold me in place. So little things like that were very helpful to know, because I had no idea. And then in terms of the steering wheel, I actually had to get reduced steering power so that the wheel would turn easier, so I wouldn't have to use so much strength while turning. And they were able to determine that during the evaluation. I also, I think it's important to note that before I ever got the vehicle I currently have now that I'm driving, I did get a wheelchair adapted van right after my injury, because I was in a power chair. I needed a ramp fan. And in that one, I did have like a swivel seat, and I was able to get into the chair and things like that with those kind of modifications. But once I started going to physical therapy and I was able to kind of stand and pivot into the chair, they had kind of deemed that I didn't need that in my newer van. So I was able to avoid having like a swivel chair. So, it just depends on where you are in your stage of driving and physical, activity. So it could change, you never know. So you could get weaker, you could get stronger. And so those are important things to note, that maybe right now you might need extra stuff, but later on maybe you don't. Or vice versa. You can always remove things,
Gotcha. What adaptations do you currently have?
So right now I have a three-prong, I don't know what you call it, like a three-prong knob that you put on the wheel to turn. And that holds my wrist in place. So I'm able to just turn. And then I have the push and pull lever system for the hand controls, because I do have function and grip on my left hand. But with that, I use the heel of my hand to push, and then I'm able to grasp and pull as well.
Gotcha.
And then I also, like we mentioned before, the blind spot mirrors. I needed those. I do have the chest harness, and then I have the the gear changer. Instead of the knob on that, they have a handle for me to grab with my wrist and pull down into drive and park. So those are the main ones I have, and then I obviously do have a ramp in my van.
Yeah. For those who kind of can't visualize it, it's kind of the part where you accelerate is similar to how you signal, the bar to signal. Let me pull up the picture again, but yeah, you guys can see it on the side where, on the left side of her steering wheel is where she accelerates and brakes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've tried as a C4, C5 quad, I tried driving with that. No, it was not happening. It was like, it was working me more than anything. I would have flown, forward. And it was just so hard. And, did you ever consider, driving from your chair, your wheelchair?
Yeah, I did actually consider that, but for me, because I do have two chairs, I normally use my manual chair outside, and then I do have a power chair for usually in the house, because it has a seat elevator, so it helps me kind of like grab things in the house. So I wanted to make sure that I could easily go between chairs, so I didn't want to completely remove the driver's seat every time. So that's kind of why I chose to keep the driver's seat.
Yeah.
But if you have just one chair, I think it is obviously safer to do it in a power chair. I don't know too many people that drive with their manual chair. I'm not sure, but there's like so many different options, because I do have like the in-lock power system for my power chair, so it just locks straight when I go in from the ramp. And then I do have tie downs for my manual chair. So I think for me, those were kind of, those were two different chairs that I do use, every day. And so I wanted to make sure that I was able to keep using both.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
What were you specifically seeking when you went shopping for your accessible van?
Yeah. So definitely what happened was, because I already had I had an older model when I first got injured. I think I was a 2011 vehicle, and at that time, there weren't that many miles on it, and everything was okay with it. It was maintained properly. But as soon as they told me that I needed reduced steering, unfortunately, that vehicle 2011 wasn't able to have the modification for reduced steering. So they told me that I needed to shop for a new van, and so for sure I thought, okay, I'm definitely going to get a 2020 vehicle, because I didn't want to get a used one. And because of California Department of Rehab, they were able to help me get funding for the modification, so I had to fundraise and save up money for the rest of the vehicle. And I was really comfortable with my Toyota Sienna ramp van, so I decided to go with that again and just get the newer model. And then obviously for aesthetic purposes, I went with all black everything.
I went all black too. Oh my gosh, yeah. I've actually been debating if I wanted like charcoal or white as a quad. Like my level of quad is probably the best, so that I don't have to wash it as often, because my silver car right now barely gets washed. But I just love all black, like everything.
I have such a hard time with washes. It's so funny that you brought that up, because I cannot find a good car wash that I can pull into without it scraping the bottom of my vehicle. So I haven't been able to get on like a car wash belt, and so I'm trying to find one that works for my vehicle. So that's something important to keep in mind as well, is that with lowered vehicles, it could be harder to get through a car wash.
Yours looks pretty high though too.
Yeah, but for that specific vehicle, they had to drop the floor because of the ramp. So a lot of the modified vehicles will have to do that. I know you had asked previously about buying it with all the modifications in it,
Yeah.
versus buying it without and then adding your own. And I just had never seen someone buy like a brand new van and then take it back to the manufacturer to drop it lower or add the ramp. But yeah, so I wasn't sure about that either. I had inquired about it, but they had told me it would be more expensive, so I decided to purchase an already modified vehicle off the lot.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it shows how much I know. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends. I guess if you don't need like a ramp or you don't need it to be lowered, I guess you can just add the hand controls. But I think if you need those kind of things, then obviously, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I thought I wanted a brand new car and then, modify it just because I am skeptical of cars sitting on the lot and how honest people are with me.
Yeah.
And I never want to buy like a lemon. But at the same time, my friend recently who did the show with me said that she brought a brand new car and it ended up being a lemon. But then they messaged her and was like, oh, your car is a lemon. We got to exchange certain things, So you just never know. It's so scary when you're forking up so much money.
Yeah, and it's important to be on top of it too, because I know for me, like ramp maintenance is a really big issue, and I just have to be on top of it. That I go every 6 months for them to check it out. Because I did have a couple times in my older van where the ramp just stopped working, and I don't know what I would do if I was on my own driving.
Yeah,
and the
it's
ramp
our livelihood.
just stopped. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Did you have any difficulties acclimating to your new equipments and hand controls?
So initially it was a little bit difficult, trying to figure out push and pull and getting that muscle memory in there. But as soon as I was practicing and things like that, it got easier. But I think it's just practice.
Gotcha. Speaking of adaptations, one of our topics that something me and you were talking about before we went on live is that we just never think about the things outside of the car that we needed to adapt or kind of pre-plan for. So for me, I know I can get out of the house, but my garage entry door has like a automatic slam shut because to keep the critters and rats out. And so it could be a little heavier, and I was like, dude, how am I going to get in unless I call someone every time, which is an inconvenience because I wanted the car to be independent. So recently I had to test open it. I swung it open and then whipped my chair over really fast and blocked the door open with my footrest. And I was like, okay, I'm good, But it's just, what if I can't swing it as fast every time? And so those are things that you have to take in consideration, what to adapt and, my left arm is weaker. I want to go through drive-through, but if my left arm is super weak, how am I going to grab my In-N-Out bag or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm going to fish out a basket and tell them to just drop it in there or just throw it on my lap.
Yeah, and I'm definitely confident that you'll figure it out. You're going to have to, invent something.
Yeah, what are some things that you had to...
Yeah, so just thinking about just getting out of the house on my own, and things like that were really important to make sure that, I wouldn't fall down the ramp and, I could get out safely. Those were super important. Like I was telling you before, I remember getting out of my front door and going backwards in order to close the door, and I ended up falling backwards out of my chair.
Yeah.
Luckily, my dad was working from home at the time, and he was there, but I try to avoid situations like that now, safety-wise, if I am on my own at any time. So I do go through the garage. The garage opener is a little bit higher for me to click on my own, so I actually got a app that opens the garage for me, right from my phone, which is perfect. So I'm able... Yeah, so I'm able to do all of that on my own. It's actually called the MyQ app, and it's yes, and I think you have to buy a certain box or something for your garage opener, but yeah, and I'll give you all that information, and then you can put it underneath in the bio, but it's really great.
It was how much it cost?
I'm not sure how much it costs. I'm not sure, but I know that it's very easy to use. It's not anything, difficult or anything like that. But as soon as I open open the garage, I get out of the garage, I can close it on the app, it's convenient. And so I think that was really helpful for me. In terms of other things that I also had to think about, was gas, like getting gas is very difficult. Yeah, so it wasn't until recently, because, obviously due to COVID precautions and things like that, there weren't a lot of tenants coming out to the cars to help. And so I would have, one of my family members come with me every time I needed to pump gas, which just wasn't independent enough for me. So I recently went to a gas station, and I called them on my cell phone, and I let them know, I'm out here, I need help pumping gas, is there any way you can help me? And they were very, willing to come out and help. What I realized was, I cannot reach the accessibility button that you're supposed to press on the gas tank, on the gas machine.
Gotcha.
And so that's why I had to call them with my cell phone. I always think about safety, and, in gas stations, people are always running around, so I never want to let my ramp down. And in fear of someone running over it all of a sudden. So that's why I stay in my car and I call, which worked out that time. But obviously, I think we have some work to do when it comes to gas stations, and people with disabilities having to pump their own gas. I just don't think it's up to par right now. But definitely call if you can't reach the accessibility. It should be like the handicap sign should be on the machine. So if you can't reach it, just call.
Yeah, you can always Yelp your location, the gas station location. Surprisingly, my friend, he's not here with us anymore. My friend passed away, but he actually had someone tell him that I'm not obligated to help you when there's a sign up. I was like, that's a lawsuit right there. But he's been denied, or they were just complete a-hole about it. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. And he's a para too.
That's unacceptable. That's unfortunate and unacceptable. I just think it's something that we need to work on and continue to fight for. I know California has some ideas for that and are trying to push it through to get better accessibility in gas stations, because it's just very difficult right now, to be honest. Actually, regarding the gas station, my instructor had actually told me before I got my license to try and find a gas station near the house and try to inform the manager that you would be coming in this vehicle. So that might be something that would be helpful to have.
That's smart. I think for me, I won't be driving on my own for a while, and also we're planning to keep, I have a van right now, but my family wants to keep it. I do want to get a car where everyone can drive it, where the seats can go in and out, but to save the headache, my family thinks we're just going to keep the other car as well. It would be a good family car if, obviously if I'm too fatigued to drive, and I can just hop in the other car. But my new one will be something I have to ease into, depending on who's able to be there with me and safety-wise, So,
in terms of that, it's a good thing that you brought that up. So, initially when I couldn't drive, because I didn't have my, license and things, my dad would still drive the new van to drive me around and things like that, because we actually traded our old van for the new van. So we got some extra money from that van to put towards a newer van. So if you're thinking about, trading in your vehicle, or if any of you guys are thinking about, maybe I could sell my vehicle and get one, just remember that you're not, for a certain period of time, you're not going to be able to drive that vehicle, and you're going to need someone else, to do that. And so with the hand controls, you're able to put them, take them out or put them down, so someone else can drive. So I just want to point that out in case anybody's wondering.
Where it's versatile.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we move on to our next topic, I'll ask one of the questions that your followers asked. What's the good and bad of driving?
The good is definitely the independence. I laugh about it now, but just going through drive-thru or getting a Starbucks or, something like that just brings me so much joy now that I could just get up and go and do it whenever I want to. And it's a simple thing, and you never really think about it. People normally take those things for granted. So I think those little things just make me so happy. I remember as soon as I got my license, I think the next day I just went to Target by myself. Just went shopping by myself for fun. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I can buy whatever I want, my privacy and whatever, and I can do it at my own time.
Yeah.
It's the freedom, it's the freedom to do those things. So that'll always top, anything for me. Is just having that independence and freedom to live life and really enjoy that. And I like just driving around. It gives me a break from the real world for a second and just gives me a sense of like independence.
Yeah, for me personally, for me only, I guess, it feels like the next best thing to like walking, as close as it gets.
Yeah, and and I don't even know. It's hard to explain the feeling of just getting that little bit of freedom back. Like it's hard to explain. Because even just like a medical appointment, something that's necessary, like I can go do that on my own now.
Yeah.
Which before I need a caregiver to come take me and those kind of things. And so I think even in that aspect of it, going to physical therapy on my own, I can go as many times as I want. I can go at any time that I want, and it's not on somebody else's schedule. So I think those things are very important for us to have some sense of normalcy back in our lives as well.
Absolutely. And one of our viewers right now, Nikki, says she also has a silver Toyota Sienna, and she has to go to the hand wash, centers because her dad washes her car. So.
Exactly, and I'm trying to find like a detailing, mobile car wash, company to come to my house and do it. But I'm skeptical about them having to learn how to use my ramp and not breaking things. And so I'm still trying to find one that I trust enough to come to the house and do it. So little things to think about.
Yeah, one last thing before we move on. My friend told me that maintenance for your ramp is important. Like every 6 months, like you got to bring it in to clean it, or else that's what like messes it up, right?
Yeah, like the motor system on it needs to be checked every 6 months. Make sure that it's working properly. For me, the ramp, I like to use it two ways. I like to use it just like slanted down onto the ground, and then I also like to use it flat when it gets onto like a curb. And so I have to make sure that it's working appropriately at all times, that it's not like accidentally being put down on the wrong surface and those kind of things. So I remember on my previous van, the motor just like would keep giving out, and I would have to keep paying like $1,000 to get a new motor, and it was just too much. And so luckily for me right now, everything's been going smoothly, but it can get expensive.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't want to think about that, but that's good to know. The level of surfaces and everything like that to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So what about how was your driving anxiety? Like in what moment did you feel like you were ready to drive again?
So for me, I have because I was in a motor vehicle collision, the journey to get back into vehicle and those kind of things was really difficult. I was the passenger, so I didn't have as much anxiety. Now that I look back on it, I didn't have as much anxiety driving, but I did have some. When I was a passenger in the car, I would have a lot of anxiety. I would always be fidgety and looking both ways before we would cross, and a little bit of a PTSD kind of situation. And so when I started driving, I was kind of nervous about having that kind of anxiety about, okay, I need to be like hyper vigilant on every corner. I don't want anybody running a red light and hitting me, and so I really had to get over that fear first. But I think once I got into the vehicle and I saw how freeing it was, and I was more comfortable with the equipment. Exactly. Yeah. With the equipment, I was more comfortable. I knew what I could do, what I couldn't do. I was properly fit. Yeah. That's where kind of my anxiety started to let up a little.
That's so reassuring. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I probably have more anxiety now because I'm out of don't have any control. My family can vouch for this. I'm like the most annoying backseat driver ever. I'm just like, dude,
Me
you
too.
didn't land under a car, okay? Like, give me a break.
Exactly. Yeah. No, me too. My dad and my mom always say like I would just like gasp or like like
Yeah,
if I
it's
saw a
there.
car coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's and I always tell people anxiety is a normal reaction. Like, don't feel that your anxiety is, something that's so wrong or, so over the top. It just becomes over the top when it keeps you from doing something. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I always tell people, talk to somebody about it. If you need a professional, talk to them. Like, mental health is such an important thing, especially with people with disabilities, that, maybe just talking to someone about it could ease that fear or that anxiety and can really get you into the vehicle.
Yeah. Wow, this is
Yeah.
also like so reassuring.
Yeah.
You put it into perspective really well. Well, I guess was it scary for you getting back in the car and getting back on the road? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely scary. Even now, I have some anxiety, like getting on the freeway during rush hour.
Yeah.
Like I try to time whenever I try to do time different trips and things like that where I'm not put into a situation where I could feel so much anxiety. But yeah, I definitely still have anxiety getting on the freeway. Just like being with so many cars at once, or in a parking lot where there's so many cars, and I'm like, okay, trying to maneuver my vehicle into the, handicap parking spot, maybe things like that give me anxiety all the time. So, it doesn't just go away, and it comes back, and you just kind of like take a deep breath, and you're like, okay, let me put some music on, let me just sit for a second, relax, and then start driving again. So, I go on the freeway here and there, but I do avoid it probably because of my anxiety, but it's not something that I can't do, which I'm glad that my instructor was able to take me, up on the freeway and stuff. So I highly encourage, letting your instructor know that this is something that you're worried about. Can we go over it?
I've always vowed that I was going to take inside roads for a while, until I acclimate. So it's good to know that someone as with you who have a lot more function than I do, like who go around, around that as well, and it's normal. It's nothing.
Yeah, it's a normal thing. I definitely recommend like doing it at least once or twice with your instructor, though.
Yeah.
Like I think that gave me some, it definitely eased my anxiety about it because I was like, okay, well I've done this with the instructor before, so I'm able to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, speaking of anxiety, like how do you ground yourself when it comes to fear and anxiety? Like what are your tips, especially while you're driving or before you're driving?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm kind of one of those people that I time my driving, so I try to do it in comfortable times for me. Like I don't like driving too late at night. Obviously, I was hit by a drunk driver, and so I try to avoid Friday night driving. Like that's just something personal to me. Like I just, I can't. I have anxiety about it. I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable driving at night when I know other people are on the road drunk, and that just comes with, my injury. It's just something traumatic happened to me, and that's just personal to me. But I try to do things like deep breathing exercises, meditation, exercises and stuff. Like when I'm in the vehicle and I just feel some sort of anxiety. I'm always like one of those people that plans things, so I always plan my route ahead of time. So I don't get anxious where I'm like lost somewhere. And with like navigation services and things like that, these days it's like better, but it is also harder for me to like just all of a sudden switch 5 lanes and get to the right turn lane or something like that. So I do try to plan my route and see how I'm gonna get there. But obviously if you miss an exit or something like that, I just like take a deep breath, make a U-turn, come back. So it's it's not something to be super worried about, but those are just some things. Just some tips, like try to plan out your routine, during the day. If you can drive at night, great, do that. Just be careful. Don't go to the gas station at night. Things like safety-wise, also, I try those kind of things like relieve my anxiety. I like to be in control, like you said. Like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm able to do this on my own. So, Just things like that. I listen to music or I listen to podcasts that really help me.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that things like that.
It's really intriguing how, how you were injured. I can see how it also makes you super aware and on top of like safety on another level. Like I never would have thought of, I never would have considered not going out Friday due to a lot people drinking and being out on the road because for I don't drink anymore and Fridays I'm always like inside of the house, and winding down early. So that's really good to know, and I just don't really think about those things. So it's really fascinating.
I think people around me don't really think about it. It's usually me that brings it up, and I'm just like, no, I don't really want to go out, at 9 p.m. On a Friday night. Can we do like another day, or can we do it earlier instead? So, especially when I'm the one driving. If it's someone else driving, then I feel a little bit more comfortable. But like because I'm driving, I want to take responsibility for myself and try to have the least risk possible of getting into another situation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good tips. Okay. Oops, I actually skipped one question under evaluation and adaptations, but people wanted to know about other car maintenance aside from the RAM.
Yeah, so for me, like, besides the ramp, I guess, like,
What about
in
equipment
terms,
and stuff?
yeah, in terms of equipment and stuff, because I don't have that much major equipment changes, like, it's just reduced steering and the type of hand controls. I would definitely encourage people to have a good relationship with their adaptive, equipment facility, because I always call them and they're always ready to just like come out and help. So I have a really good relationship with them. I haven't had any problems with my steering wheel or anything like that. The only thing that I had a problem with was with my wheelchair and the easy lock system in my car. So at one point, like I think the bolt on my chair had come loose, and so it wasn't able to lock into my vehicle. And so I needed some repairs on that. I also remember, like, obviously you need to go get your oil change and those things too, so just be prepared, to wait there and let them know that it's an adaptive vehicle.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times they don't know. A lot of the places they don't know. So just being on top of it, because my car is fairly new, it's only a year old now. I haven't had too many problems, but I'm hoping that it'll go well.
Gotcha. Yeah. I have one that's local, but they just I haven't had good experiences with was it Mobility Works? In San Jose at least. They don't have the best, reputation
Yeah.
here. So I'm a little nervous about that as well. But I think there's one in Burlingame that has decent reviews. But that's also another thing I have to take into consideration is that can I drive to Burlingame? That's near San Francisco, a little before.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure that my car is equipped for everyone to drive. And
Yeah,
so
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so in terms of grants and resources, before we end the show, like what was your grant process like?
Yeah, so initially when I didn't go through Department of Rehab, I had looked for different grants and different things, and there were a couple that I went through. There were different foundations here in California that I had found, and then I also did a lot of research on, like different organizations like Christopher Reeve Foundation, United Spinal. They all have websites that have adaptive driving resources. And then obviously social media really helped me trying to find grants. Just Googling it and honestly just letting them know, like, I need independence and I'm looking for some sort of assistance. And, if they're not able to do all modifications, sometimes they're willing to just pay for just the hand controls or just the, spinner knob or certain parts. And so just $2,000, like, for, the hand controls or something like that could easily be some sponsored, or something. So I definitely encourage looking in your area as well, because there are specific area grants that a lot of people miss out on. I try to tell people now, like when you're first injured, try to look for grants sooner rather than later, because a lot of them are within a year or within 2 years of your injury. And so I try to encourage people to look for grants and just let them know that you need it for independence and that you're looking to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm so dumb. Like, I filled out all the applications, and they're like, "What do you need?" I was like, "I don't know what I need yet." They're like, "Well,
Yeah.
we can't give you a yes or a no until you know." So I had to like scrap the whole. Some people let you save the application, but some had to scrap, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just start over again." I was so exhausted, but thank
Yeah.
you so much for giving me the list of grants, and
Yeah.
I'll be sure to list them below for you guys later. If in case you guys watch this later, I will list it down below. Some that she sent for me. And again, I don't know if you mentioned, but where did you find them?
So a lot of them I Googled and I just put in my specific situation. So spinal cord injury grant or spinal cord injury assistance. I would put adaptive driving. I also looked at Christopher Reeve Foundation. They had a lot of resources. NorCal SCI up in Northern California has a lot of resources for adaptive driving. They have grants as well. And then United Spinal website had some adaptive driving resources as well. And I know there are different foundations across the country. So, I mean, just because it's across the country doesn't mean that they won't be able to sponsor you or, something like that. It just takes a lot of time to fill them out.
Yeah.
It does.
Gotcha.
So definitely start early. The thing is, like, just have like a running list of places that you want to apply to. Sometimes they require like an essay prompt or something like that.
Yeah.
Definitely have that ready. References or whatever else they need.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. I wish I would have done sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I'm mentally preparing myself, and I'm just so grateful to have you. Thank you so much for reaching out to me early on. Like, you didn't owe me that, but just it means a lot.
No, as soon as I saw your social media, I was like, oh my gosh, I just did this. Like, I wish someone would,
Yeah.
these things. So I'm glad that we were able to connect, and I'm so glad that you were able to have me on because I hope this helps, somebody else feel a little bit more at ease.
Yeah. So one more comment in the comment box. Chelsea says, unfortunately, I don't have any adaptive vehicle companies nearby. Chelsea, I know you're down towards SoCal. Gretchen got her car all the way in San Diego. So, some people, I know a lot of people had to ship their cars down to like Orange County and SoCal and get it shipped back because that's like the heart of, well, it depends what you're looking for, but I do know they are the heart of getting adaptations done very well, so you're not too far. You're 3 hours away, my dear. So any suggestions as well, for Chelsea?
Yeah, so I think the important part is just trying to establish one that's the closest.
Yeah.
I know that it can be far. Luckily, my adaptive equipment mobility center is only a 30-minute drive from me, but definitely they service a lot of Central California, so they go out 2 or 3 hours. So usually they'll come to you, or you'll have to go to them a couple of times, but definitely try to establish a connection with somebody, because you don't want to be stranded looking for someone when something happens.
Yeah.
I definitely want to make sure you know about that.
Yeah, my driving evaluator is actually 2 hours away, but they come to me, and they do have vans, but we don't know yet if I can use what they what they have. And I'm just a little nervous getting something that's expensive and high tech, and like you haven't even gotten to test drive it yet, so I'm just taking the process as it comes, but
never. So one piece of advice is never just accept it. If it's not working for you, you make sure you let them know before you get it all, and because you don't want to be stuck driving and then something goes wrong or you don't feel comfortable. So never just accept it, and make sure that you're comfortable with everything before you take it off the lot.
Well, actually, what I'm talking about are the hand controls. What I'm looking into is something that I drive with one arm only. I can gas, turn, and brake with one handlebar. And someone who's been doing this for like 34 years, I think, and he suggested it, and I looked it up. It's called like Scott's something.
I think I tried it. I know what you're talking about, though. I forgot what it was called.
But I noticed that like you have they removed the steering wheel and everything, and I'm just like, oh gosh, like I need everything as is, hopefully. And yeah, so we'll see what's possible. But that when I saw that device, I was like, oh, it's on. Like the possibilities are like endless.
There's so many. Yeah, there's so many, and to like honestly, maybe your own local dealer won't know all of the adaptations. So definitely do your research.
Yeah.
Because maybe they've never installed one, in your area, but maybe across the country someone else has exactly what you need.
Yeah.
So definitely keep reaching out to people. Because what may work for you may also work for someone else, and they might have more equipment that might work better for you.
Yeah. And the guy who suggested it to me told me, don't ever buy something you haven't tried out yet. So I gotta look for people who have that. Maybe befriend them and ask them if I can never like test out their car and see if it's
you know what
compatible.
Have you ever been to the Abilities Expo? Yeah.
I haven't been since like 2010, since when I first got injured.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe because I feel like now that it's 2020, like I feel like more things are coming out that So I would definitely like call, like one of the vendors on there and see if you can. Now that so many things are virtual, maybe they can show you what they have and like send it out and things. So that would be great. Yeah. To do that.
Okay. Well, this is such an eye-opening and educational conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I just love talking to other people about things and learning from other people. So this is great.
Yeah, I'm so excited for everyone whoever missed this episode to come on and watch. But all right, guys, it's about time to close out another episode. Thank you, Gretchen, for coming on to share with us about your journey and all of your knowledge. I hope that this has been informative and that you guys can take some information with you about driving and adaptations and anxiety and whatnot. A special thank you to our viewers who tuned in today and interacted with us in the live. If you guys if you guys enjoyed today, you guys can subscribe, like, and leave a comment, and hit the notification bell for future episodes. Also, if you would like to follow us, our social media is down below. And if you would like to shop for Resilient Apparel, my link is in the description box. And all proceeds helps me afford ongoing physical therapy and other medical expenses. Would you like to share anything about, you, Gretchen, before we head out?
I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm always on social media at Gretchen Squad on Instagram. You guys can DM me if you have any further questions. I'm usually available on there. And, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I hope that you guys have a good journey and hope you consider accessible and adaptive driving and not be afraid of it.
Yeah. It's doable, guys. It's doable. Yeah. I believe in you. 13 years. It took me 13 years.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys next time.
Bye.